What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about a fragrance from the house of Initio Parfums, one of the premier houses out in these fragrance streets. I really love what they put together. I love some of their creativity, but not all of it. Let's see if today we got a banger on our hands, because I know a lot of you guys have spoken about this fragrance, but a lot of you haven't put your nose to it because you're too busy chasing the flagship joints. You know what I'm saying? Mainly side effect, but we'll let it slide this time. Strap up. All right, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I'm your host for the evening. Today, from the house of Initio Parfums, we have dun 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 Psychedelic Love. I mean, guys, let's not say too much, right? I hate their testers or their little samplers, but we will make do, us little fragrant peasants, right? Down here in the underworld of perfumery. Let's read you this little, I love that in the air. Already loving that. Woodiness, sweetness, powderiness. The signature of this narcotic bomb in 3 essential ingredients: rose, hedione, and heliotrope. While hedione activates the brain regions linked to pleasure and the libido. Oh my gosh, I want to activate my libido. Heliotrope goes even further. Equally tender and illicit, the crystalline powder hides its intentions well. Beware of its creamy, powdery floral facets wavering between vanilla and almond. Didn't we just get a vanilla almond like yesterday? Anyways, poetry aside, you know, they do mess with certain chemicals to approach their perfumery more psychologically and to evoke intimacy. This is the whole pheromones conversation and things like that. You know, these companies that claim they put things into their fragrances that ignite the senses and almost like a pill just activate parts of your body and mind that are unlike other generic fragrances. And this is a purple bottle presentation, so I believe this part of the line is to be more romantic. They have a white line, a black line, and a purple line. We'll do a deep dive later on what those 3 mean and the unisexness and all the different things that they're providing in terms of how they've organized themselves as a brand. But in the air, I get an almond powdery sweet, almost fruity sweet in the background, but it's behind a lot of woody powderiness. And as generic as that sounds, this is very niche feeling. So the vanilla, the powder, the fruitiness, it's all has its own different texture, and it feels like a very full-bodied scent. The sillage on this is very nice. It's relatable, it's familiar, but it's unique in its textures. This is so much better than high frequency. And then on skin, it kind of pops into this floral fruity type of thing, and I don't really know what I'm getting, but the main girth of this fragrance is woody, powdery almond sweetness. And everybody smells almond a different way. So let's go ahead and go into the breakdown here. 4.23 out of 5 mass appeal territory out of 3,600 votes. So most people think about this fragrance. It was launched right after High Frequency in 2017. And let's go ahead and see the notes. Ylang-Ylang. I love hearing people in FragCom pronounce Ylang-Ylang. I definitely get a great dose of that, but in my experience in the past, when Ylang-Ylang is too forward, it really has so much personality that if you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. And I don't know many people in FragCom that would say, you know what, I just love Ylang-Ylang in a fragrance, and I don't mind it being forward. Generally, people like it to be tucked in a fragrance because it has so much personality that depending on the raw materials you're using and things like that, it can really stink up a fragrance, like just put an unpleasingness to it. So I think this is very safely done, and I'm glad they put it in the heart, because into the dry down, it'll kind of fade away and play the super background, and more of the heart and base comes out. Now in that heart, man, absolute perfection. Heliotrope, Hedione, Bulgarian Rose. You have this kind of white minty purple flower, this elegance, this classiness. You have the Hedione, which is sweet, white, floral elegance. And then you have the Bulgarian Rose for that extra dose of sweet personality. Now, the base is sandalwood and myrrh, which I think is an interesting kind of juxtaposing base. And what you kind of get is this undertone of soft, sweet, pillowy presence with the tiniest resinous tint, almost like a fraction of an incense ambery touch to the base. It's so light that it just tones a slightly different personality. You can't make out myrrh. It's sandalwood heavy on the base, I feel. But the heart is very, the heart of this fragrance is the majority of this fragrance. I'll say that. On skin, I get more of the Ylang-Ylang, that kind of yellow flower twist playing into the sweetness and the softness and the powderiness, the almondness of this fragrance. And it's got a decently woody base. I would say this leans 60-40 into the florals. So this feels more airy and heady than bassy and earthy. It's more of a cloud pillowy experience, but it's got enough woods in it in the base to where it does ground the fragrance to not feel too airy and light. This is a very middleweight bodied type of fragrance. I do like it. I don't think it's the most, it's unique, but not amazing, if that makes sense. Like it's trying to be different, but I'm not catching the bait. Like, I'm not fully convinced that this type of scent profile is something that's going to be signature to me. So it's not typical. It's unique. It just, to me, is going after a profile that I'm not very wowed by. I much prefer the Pegasus approach to this style of kind of almond, woody, powdery sweetness because it punches more and it's more distinct and it's more signature. This feels like it's trying to be two different fragrances. Like it doesn't know whether it wants to be, you know, like Pegasus or like Musk Therapy or even Atomic Rose. Like it feels like it tried to, you know, those fragrances had a threesome and this is what you got. And it's like, well, no, I prefer the parents. You know what I'm saying? Performance on this, I'm sure you'll get a solid 6 hours. I really don't like how good this fragrance was versus what it became. Like even on the dry down, it's really starting to fade from me, to the point where I feel like I could conclude this very easily. Fall, winter. If it's spring, summer, you want to be around 70 degrees with a breeze. The feeling initially felt so intimate. The vanilla and the floral nature in the rose was so rosy, and the ylang-ylang was just popping, and it had such a bright, pretty top to it. But this is why it's important to wear a fragrance for a day rather than wear it in the fragrance shop, because you think you're getting something and then it dries down and becomes lifeless, and then you're pissed off. It's almost like they sold you trickery. And perfumery is trickery, because when you're dealing with top, heart, and base notes, you're dealing with something that starts off a certain way and changes. And so some people's approach is to try to maintain the illusion of that super pretty top into the base, and then other people are fine with the transition because the transition is just as complex and beautiful as the opening, and it's nice. But sometimes what happens is a bunch of top notes into the heart fade away, and all you're left with is these generic base notes, which in this case was myrrh and sandalwood, which isn't that crazy. And I think you just get left with that, with like a little dose of white florals. The illusion of, the deception that comes with looking at a note pyramid is that you see all these notes, and then you start to want to smell for those notes, and you don't smell them. So when you get away from Fragrantica and you're just wearing the fragrance as an experience, you're like, man, they lied to me. It said this had this. And that's why, I want to show you guys something really quick here. This is somewhat helpful in some ways, but also not at all helpful. If I have an account on Fragrantica, I can click show the votes. And as we see here, it says that the most pronounced thing in this fragrance is the Heliotrope, then the Myrrh, then the Ylang-Ylang, then the Sandalwood. The least visible suspects in this fragrance is the White Flower Rose Bergamot. And that makes sense because bergamot a lot of times is just used to lift a fragrance. It's not meant to be smelled. And the rose does somewhat die down. But even looking at this, okay, say you saw this note pyramid and then you took it a step further and saw this, which almost nobody makes an account on Fragrantica to see the votes. But even if you got to this point, you might not smell the fragrance this exact way. And even then, this voting system, it's like, are you voting on this during the initial spray? Are you voting on it during the dry down? That context really matters. And unfortunately, every vote, we don't know what these people did. If they just sprayed it on a test strip only and not on skin, everybody can freely vote if they have an account. So even this can be a total lie when you really look at it, because there's just so many moving parts that we don't know that don't put any of this voting into context. Now, the only way it is helpful is maybe if you're like, well, you know what? I really don't like bergamot. And then you hit show votes and see, oh, bergamot is the least detectable thing out of majority of the people smelling this. Okay, well, I'm glad because now I know it's not very much in the fragrance, maybe. But it's also not helpful at all in many ways for the reasons that I said. I think a fragrance like this is unique, but I wrestle with it because the quality feels 8-ish, but the dry down feels like 7, like a very average generic designer. They gave you a lot of bells and whistles in the first 10 minutes, and then they all fade away to heliotrope and sandalwood. And it's like, wow, what a boring fragrance. So for me, I'm very shocked that this fragrance got a mass appeal score. I mean, I guess I'm not shocked from the standpoint that most designer fragrances dry down to something very generic. So maybe this dries down to a type of scent profile that people are fond of, like a Ariana Cloud or a Billie Eilish or a Gucci Guilty, Elixir, a Drake Summer Mink, this kind of just sweet floral musky thing. Maybe that's why, because all it has to do is beat the designers to feel good. But yeah, I just feel like the dry down is completely night and day different than the opening in such a way that's less flattering. And I'm shocked that it got this score. So I'm going to put a challenge to you guys. I think this is 6 to 8 spray, fall, winter, 70-degree weather with a breeze, intimate somewhat, but also meant to be somewhat versatile because it's so floral. It doesn't lean completely into intimacy. It's not a sweet bomb or anything like that. It's not dark or mysterious or anything. It's not edgy. It's pretty boy fancy. I think I want to challenge you guys to tell me if you own this fragrance, or if you don't like this fragrance, what fragrance for you from the Initio line evokes the most intimacy? And maybe tell me your top 2 date style fragrances, whether fancy or casual date, from the line do you prefer? If you are a fan of Psychedelic Love, do you have it? That's the key. Not your opinion about it. Do you own it? Did you smell it and were wowed enough to actually purchase it like you needed it in your collection? Do you think I'm wrong in my assessment of this? Because judging by Fragrantica, I'm the odd sheep in this debate. But I just think things snap with so much personality. When I look at the line as a whole, I feel like Blessed Baraka punches harder. Absolute Aphrodisiac punches harder and is very similar. Side effect, punches harder. Musk therapy, smells like this, but is less vanillic and almondy, but way better, has more personality and better performance. Atomic Rose, more performance, more personality. There's just a lot of options here. Even Power Self is a little less sweet than this, but feels more wearable and less generic. Feels it maintains its nicheness. This would be very low on the list for me. And if I bought this for $200, $300, $400 and took this home and started wearing it, I would get bored of it very fast. And even though it punches as if it's supposed to be a romantic fragrance, I would feel very much boy toyish in it, despite how much slightly fancier it feels than a generic designer scent. Alternatives to this, in terms of scent profile, I just told you guys the fragrances I prefer in the line over this. In terms of the designer world, Gucci Love Edition, Gucci Guilty Elixir, Eros, Drake Summer Mink, the On a Cloud stuff from Ariana Grande, any of them, you can take your pick. As far as a heliotrope forward fragrance, Mont Blanc Presence is very nice, although it's less powdery and more aromatic. There's just a lot of options. Musk Therapy, Glorious Oud Royal Blanc, which is a clone of Musk Therapy, 10 out of 10 to me. Yeah, I just, this one's not doing it for me at all. As a rating, I give it like, real talk, I give it a 7. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like, it's trying to take me into an 8 because of its quality and because it's a little bit unique. But I think its uniqueness is a fleeting memory. It continues to dry into this very singular 2-note type of fragrance. The Ylang-Ylang goes away. The heliotrope's virtually non-existent. The myrrh ain't really there. You know, the rose is not really rosin. So the dry down is just, I mean, you guys wear this fragrance and 20 minutes in, tell me if you still feel the same way you felt in the opening. Because I was very into it at the opening, and the more I talked, the more it just completely faded away. Anyways, guys, this was Psychedelic Love, which people seem to love, and I'm the only one that thinks it's extremely average for niche territory. I think there's plenty of fragrances you could buy cheaper than this to get on par with this. Here's the deal. If you're wearing a generic designer fragrance or a clone, all you got to do next to the guy wearing this is let him put it on and show up 30 minutes after him, because then you'll smell better than him. Don't go around him during the opening or the first hour of the wearing experience. Just wait a little bit and show up to the party, and that's where you'll get your edge. Anyways, Psychedelic Love, Initio Parfums. It was a close to dud for me. Average fragrance. I don't think it's worth your time or your money, but put your nose on it and let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. More importantly, turn on that notification bell. Talk to me. I do talk back, and I drop episodes like crazy every single day of the week. So if you're into fragrance content of all price points, styles, and we are looking out for the ladies more this year as well. Cover a lot of unisex and men's already, but this is the place that you guys want to be. If you're new to the channel, I organize everything on my playlist section. So if you want to binge watch particular types of content that I do, definitely check that out. I gotta go, but I'm going to put on the board 2 videos based off what you've been searching for that the algorithm thinks you would like to watch next from my channel. Stick around, give me a shot. I'm sure you'll want to stay for a lifetime because we got a lifetime worth of content to give. Love you guys so much. SB signing out. Stay blessed. Peace.